that an Albuquerque police officer was investigating a traffic crash near San Mateo and Lomas when she came across a woman in the front passenger seat of one of the cars exhibiting signs of significant intoxication and lacking clothing from the waist down. The woman reportedly said Jones was the driver but fled the scene on foot. She then called Jones, the complaint stated, and the police service aide spoke to the man on the other end of the call, believed to be Jones. He appeared to be heavily intoxicated and made statements implying his capacity to employ lethal force through third parties. That in January, Jones had an issue. The saddest thing about this to me is that it's not surprising. You know, I've seen him do things over the course of his career that have been...
Jon Jones has just shocked the world with his sudden and unexpected retirement from the UFC. But the headlines didn't stop there. Just as fans were coming to terms with the end of an era, former UFC champion and commentator Daniel Cormier dropped a bombshell revelation that has sent shockwaves through the MMA community. According to Cormier, a dark and disturbing incident involving Jones unfolded. Cormier described a troubling event in which Jones was pulled over by a highway patrol officer. Inside the vehicle was a woman, intoxicated and reportedly naked from the waist down. Things took a turn for the worse when Jones, instead of complying, fled the scene on foot, abandoning the car and the woman inside. As officers tried to reach out, even putting the woman on a call with him, Jones, allegedly heavily intoxicated himself, refused to cooperate and went as far as threatening the officer with severe consequences. Police even released the body camera footage of the police officer who reached the crash spot. According to the footage, Jones is said to have fled the scene of the accident, making unsettling remarks to a police officer. As the situation unraveled, a woman at the scene, visibly intoxicated and partially undressed, identified Jones as the driver.
Please talk to him. Please talk to him. This is a friend that's a friend of mine.
Hello, who am I speaking to? Me is PSA Lopez. And who am I speaking to?
What's your name?
PSA Lopez? With the Albuquerque Police Department?
How many guys you guys I'll do with you?
Don't worry about that, man. Were you the one driving the vehicle?
This isn't the first time the former champion has found himself in legal trouble. In fact, his history with law enforcement dates back over a decade. In 2012, he was convicted of driving under the influence after crashing into a telephone pole, resulting in a fine and a suspension of his driver's license. Sadly, this wouldn't be the last time Jones made headlines for off-the-cage misconduct. In addition to his past troubles, Jones was also accused of hit-and-run charges in 2015 by a pregnant woman. The incident led to an out-of-court settlement, though the legal matter didn't end there. Despite the serious accusations, Jones was eventually unconditionally discharged by the court, allowing him to avoid further penalties. This event marked yet another chapter in his long history of off-the-cage controversies, adding to his complex legacy outside of the octagon.
Tough to see some of that and tough to hear some of it, obviously coming from body cam footage. But the woman in the car that is crashed, sitting in the passenger seat, is adamant that it is Jon Jones who she's talking about. The man on the phone is alleged to be Jon Jones, according to police.
And to her in the video saying this is Jon Jones.
And to her in the video as well. And then the police, when he's talking to his fellow policeman, saying that it is Jon Jones. And then you hear the threats talking kind of just like, I guess just like sort of just like mumbling through it, like my brothers have killed for less, everything like that. Just sort of an odd video that comes out, and this is something, obviously, the court of law is going to handle this. This is something that has happened to Jon Jones before.
The list of controversies surrounding Jon Jones doesn't end there. In 2021, he faced severe allegations of domestic violence from his wife, Moses. Despite the seriousness of the accusations, the couple decided to settle their issues privately and avoided a public court battle. They eventually reconciled, and their reunion was made public during UFC 285, where Jones made his highly anticipated anticipated return to the octagon. This chapter in his life only added to the complexity of his legacy, as Jones continues to navigate personal challenges while maintaining his dominance in MMA. However, after UFC 285, he acknowledged that he has faced many struggles in the past and admitted he is not perfect.
But new trouble this morning for a mixed martial arts champion. UFC star Jon Jones turned himself into police overnight after leaving the scene of an accident where he crashed his car, injured a pregnant woman. He's free on bond this morning, but he could face serious charges. ABC's Ryan Smith is here with all the latest. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, George. An overnight UFC champ, Jon Jones, spent a few hours in police custody before posting that cash bond. But now the man who many call the best pound-for-pound mixed martial arts fighter in the world and one of the sport's biggest draws is fighting felony charges that threaten to knock him out.
These off-the-cage legal troubles have cost Jones more than just legal fees. He's served probation, completed community service, and faced multiple suspensions from the UFC. The repeated nature of these incidents has raised serious concerns among fans and analysts alike, with many questioning how much longer the UFC and the sport as a whole can tolerate such behavior from its athletes. As Jones's legal issues continue to surface, his once glowing legacy has become marred by controversy. While he remains one of the greatest fighters in MMA history, the question lingers: can the UFC continue to support a champion who consistently finds himself in trouble with the law, or is the end of his reign approaching?
Jon Jones has faced allegations of domestic violence from his fiancée Jessie Moses, who left him after he was charged with battery and vehicle tampering in Las Vegas in September 2021. But in a surprising twist, the couple reunited at UFC 285, where Jones kissed Moses after defending his title. Jones also hinted at his troubled past by saying, "I've been through a lot, and I'm not perfect," in his post-fight interview.
Jon Jones's recent controversy has thrust him into the limelight once again, and now everyone in the UFC is offering their opinion on the matter. Daniel Cormier expressed deep disappointment in Jones, criticizing his behavior for the umpteenth time. He shared that the saddest thing about this incident is that he's no longer surprised by it. Cormier also wished Jones a better future, hoping he would find peace and fulfillment. He emphasized that after his sudden retirement, Jones might need to discover a new purpose in life, one that revolves around his kids and wife. Without that, Cormier warned, Jones could risk being lost forever.
The saddest thing about this to me is that it's not surprising. You know, I've seen him do things over the course of his career that have been very dangerous and very, it's just not smart. I hope that as he goes into this next phase of his career, if it's over forever, he fills the void with something positive. He's got some beautiful children. He's got a longtime girlfriend. He needs to fill that time with those people if he's going to be able to come out of the other side of his career with something else. Because even if you have a lot of money, you can have money and still not have purpose. His purpose is in those beautiful kids of his.
Michael Bisping's reaction to the Jon Jones controversy was different than DC. Michael Bisping focused on what Jones said to the police officer who was on call with Jones. Michael Bisping mentioned that Jon Jones threatened a police officer that he will get his throat slit and the policeman will not be the first one this year, he will be the second. Michael Bisping was shocked to hear what Jon Jones said, but he said that it was better that he ran away, which he did because things could have been much worse if he would be there facing police officers.
The saddest thing about this to me is that it's not surprising. You know, I've seen him do things over the course of his career that have been very dangerous and very, it's just not smart. I hope that as he goes into this next phase of his career, if it's over forever, he fills the void with something positive. He's got some beautiful children. He's got a longtime girlfriend. He needs to fill that time with those people if he's going to be able to come out of the other side of his career with something else. Because even if you have a lot of money, you can have money and still not have purpose. His purpose is in those beautiful kids of his.
The discussion surrounding Jon Jones isn't just focused on the legal charges against him, but also on his sudden retirement, which has shocked the UFC community. Fans and analysts are speculating on the reasons behind his unexpected departure from the sport.
And then whoever it was on the phone goes on to say, guess what? You won't be the first guy this year that I've threatened. Swear to God, you'd be the second.
Well, guess what? You won't be the first guy this year that I threatened. It's gonna die. You'll be the second one. My brothers, they give you way less
My brothers, they kill people for way less. Now, allegedly, he got out of the car and disappeared. I gotta say, if that is true, he might have done the right thing, because if the police had shown up and they said, "Are you intoxicated?
Are you intoxicated?"
And he's behind the wheel of a car and it's all crashed up and he's on drugs and he's on magic mushrooms or psilocybin and he's drinking alcohol and he's got a rap for that, then listen, it would have looked bad. But he decided, allegedly, to get out of the car and leg it.
Spanish UFC fighter Ilia Topuria, who's preparing to face Charles Oliveira for the lightweight title at UFC 317 in Las Vegas, publicly defended Jones. Topuria emphasized that Jones, having fought the best in the world for over a decade, wasn't someone who avoided tough opponents. He praised Jones's incredible career, calling him the greatest of all time, and affirmed that his decision to retire was well deserved.
Jon has done so many great things in the sport. He fought the best of the best in the last 10 years. So I don't think he's ducking anyone. You know, he just wants to retire. He's tired maybe of the game or whatever, and he wants to retire. I don't think he's ducking anyone, because you can find a guy always that, no, he's the next one, he's the next one, he's the next one. Even if he beats Tom Aspinall, there's gonna be someone new. So
Tom Aspinall also weighed in on Jon Jones's retirement, offering his best wishes for Jones's future. Aspinall expressed that he held no grudges against Jones for avoiding their potential fight, stating that he believed Jones's retirement wasn't solely about avoiding this one matchup. Aspinall acknowledged Jones's remarkable career, stating that he had earned the right to retire on his own terms. He emphasized that Jones had achieved so much in the sport and deserved to step away whenever he felt it was time. Moreover, he said that Jones is retired, so UFC will have to move on.
You guys don't follow Jon on social media?
I don't follow him on social media. He said that...
No, me too, actually. Me too, but the guy is living his best life. He's had a fantastic career, we all know. We know Jon's a religious man, so I want to say God bless him moving forward in what he does with his life and his career. And you know, we move on. We move on. I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I'm ready to take on all comers, get this division moving again. Us guys have been waiting around too long. You know, the contenders are getting sick of it. Everybody's getting sick of it. Even the fans are getting sick of this stuff. So Jon's retired and it's time that we move on.
Daniel Cormier weighed in on Jon Jones's sudden retirement, suggesting that Jones might have hurt his legacy by not fighting Tom Aspinall. Cormier argued that a fight between the two could have been a major boost to Jones's already legendary career. He acknowledged that it was hard to imagine Jones retiring without facing Aspinall, but the unexpected nature of his departure has sparked a broader debate within the UFC community about the impact of this decision on his overall legacy.
I think that when you look at Jon Jones in his career, him ducking anyone doesn't seem like it's a possibility. Ryan Clark put in our group message on Saturday, he isn't ducking anyone. But by doing it the way that he did, by not saying, I retire in November after beating Stipe Miocic, he allows for us to have the conversation. Because it was kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, kick the can down the road, till eventually he goes, I really just don't want to do it. It was more money. He got the money. So it just at least gives you the conversation. As a guy that spent so much time with him in the octagon, it's hard for me to believe that he ducked. But it does allow us to talk about it now because of the way he handled us leading to this decision.
Famous sports journalist Stephen A. weighed in on Jon Jones's decision, suggesting that Jones's temperamental nature played a significant role in his sudden retirement. He argued that Jones doesn't like it when opponents talk about him, and since Tom Aspinall had discussed Jones in the lead up to a potential fight, Jones likely didn't want to give Aspinall the privilege of sharing the octagon with him. Stephen A. further emphasized that in Jones's eyes, he is the greatest to ever compete inside the octagon, and perhaps that feeling influenced his decision to retire before facing Aspinall.
He's the greatest that I've ever seen. He ain't scared of anybody, he ain't ducking anybody. Here's what I will say. He is the kind of person that is temperamental. If you get on his nerves and you discuss him, yeah, if he's already signed a fight with you, then he'd be ready to kick your ass. If he hasn't fought for you, he considers it a privilege to fight him. And Aspinall, he's already been on the record saying the guy annoys me. I don't like him. I want to know how much believability, DC and RC, do y'all believe there is to the assertion He's refusing to fight because everybody wants him to fight this guy, and this guy disgusts him so much, he doesn't want to give the guy the privilege of being in the octagon against him.
Kamaru Usman, on the other hand, offered a differing perspective. He explained that sometimes fighters make decisions based on their legacy rather than just career longevity. He pointed to Georges St-Pierre, who retired even when many believed he had more to give, and Khabib Nurmagomedov, who walked away as the undefeated champion. Usman speculated that Jon Jones might have wanted to do the same, retiring at the peak of his career to preserve his legacy. Usman acknowledged that Jones could have feared the risk of losing, which could jeopardize both his legacy and lucrative brand deals. However, Usman emphasized that he didn't blame Jones for making that choice.
What would you do if you're in Jon Jones' position?
This is the very, very difficult things that I don't think a lot of people understand is Georges St-Pierre left where people went, oh, he still has some left. And he left and he kept himself and he kept that brand intact. Khabib Nurmagomedov left as the champion. Everything that you do is you're still the champion. Do I want to risk it one more time, potentially lose and not be saw as invincible anymore? Or do I just bow out, still be able to get those brand deals and all of those things because I am invincible? I mean, honestly, I'm not mad at Jon Jones.
Neither am I, dude. If anything, kudos to him, dude. I'm actually proud of him. You know, Khabib could have kept going. Georges St-Pierre had the ability to defend his belt. Jon Jones, he defended his belts. He's defended his light heavyweight title. A crazy amount of numbers. Like, bro, just let it be.
Michael Bisping, on the other hand, expressed disappointment in Jon Jones' sudden retirement. He argued that if Jones had retired after fighting Tom Aspinall, no one would have said anything, and it would have been a fitting end to his career. However, because of the way Jones left without facing Aspinall, Bisping felt let down. He stated that this sudden retirement would inevitably affect Jones' legacy to some degree. Bisping also suggested that Jones knew Aspinall would have been a significant challenge, implying that Jones might have ducked the fight to avoid a potential loss.
I think if he'd have retired after he fought Stipe, no one could have said anything. It would have been like, you had a great career, you can't do it forever, getting older, there's always going to be someone young, up and coming through. But he didn't do that. He kind of implied that he was going to fight him. Yeah, he said that he annoyed him and things like that, but he definitely, it seemed that he agreed with the UFC that he was going to fight him, and apparently money was discussed and stuff like that. And then for him to come out and do this, it is surprising. It is disappointing, if I'm honest, as well. And I do think it will affect his legacy to a certain degree. I don't think it's necessarily just a case of him ducking Tom, although I do think he does recognize that he is a threat, that he is big, he's agile, all the attributes, right?
Michael Bisping also offered another perspective on Jon Jones' retirement, suggesting that Jones might be dealing with a lot of distractions in his life at the moment. Bisping pointed out that Jones is facing numerous personal struggles and challenges, which could be affecting his decision-making. He emphasized that the pressures and distractions outside the octagon could have played a role in Jones' sudden retirement, adding another layer to the complexity of the situation. Bisping acknowledged that Jones might be overwhelmed by these issues, which could have contributed to his choice to step away from the sport. He declared that old school MMA fans will always love him.
But then when you combine it with everything else, that he is getting older, that he has made plenty of money, that he's going to get, from what I saw online, $6-7 million next month out of this lawsuit as well. And then, of course, we see all this, the legal stuff that's going on, which is something that's haunted Jon, and that goes back to February. So I think he's had a lot of distractions. He even admitted that he wasn't training or working out at all. So I guess when you look at that in the bigger picture, it's not a surprise. Right. But I still, in my mind, as a fighter, still thought that Jon would do it. And as I say, people that have been around, you know, like old school MMA fans, they will remember Jon, what he did at light heavyweight.
Regardless of the controversies surrounding Jon Jones and the decisions he makes, his legacy as one of the greatest fighters in MMA history remains undeniable. From his unmatched skills inside the octagon to his ability to dominate some of the best fighters in the world, Jones has etched his name in the sport's history. While his off-the-cage issues have added complexity to his story, they don't erase the accomplishments that made him a legend. In the end, Jon Jones will always be remembered as one of the most talented and influential athletes to ever step into the UFC. What do you think about Jon Jones' sudden retirement? Do you believe his legacy will be overshadowed by his off-the-cage troubles? Or does his dominance in the octagon still make him the greatest of all time? Was he right to step away, or did he avoid a challenge in the form of Tom Aspinall? How much do you think personal struggles should influence a fighter's career decisions? And in the end, should Jones's achievements outweigh the controversies in shaping his legacy? Let's hear your thoughts and opinions on the complex career of Jon Jones.